Make it hotter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Second to None podcast. Barely by the skin of our teeth, we make it on here with technical difficulties, and all as former SEC and NFL players Tavarres King and Knowshon Moreno join me, Blaine Gilmer, here on the Second to None podcast. Like I said, the show on the Believe Podcast Network and on the 365 Sports YouTube channel that talks all things SEC football. And gentlemen, the joint is still hopping even after the national championship game is over with. Teams are hopping right into recruiting, but now it's this whole other deal that you guys didn't even have to worry about back when you were playing the transfer portal. I mean, it is absolutely going bananas, and the SEC teams are some of the ones taking the most advantage of it. Knowshon, TK, how you guys doing tonight, and are you excited to talk a little portal?
Hey, hold on. Let me start though, man. I appreciate the intro, all that stuff. You already know. Man, you tell the people who almost had me late, though. Let's be real here now. Man,
hey,
am I playing?
He's wanting to test out a new mic and stuff, and I was like, man, I gotta get the kids to bed. We got a bunch of stuff going on here. You know, we got a bunch of stuff to do. So no doubt, we technical difficulties and things going on for sure. But no, I am excited to talk SEC transfer portal season, and also both of you guys, former Georgia Bulldogs, Stetson Bennett returning for Georgia, and that has, as crazy as it may sound, that has the Georgia fan base like split on, are they happy or are they not with the you would think if you had a quarterback that went 13-1 and won a national, or 14-1 and is, I guess, whatever, and went won the national championship, that everyone consensus would be happy about that player returning. Maybe not the case with some of the Georgia fan base, but Tavarres, how are you doing this evening? And what are just some overall thoughts, man, before we get going here?
I'm solid, bro. Doing well. Had an awesome day. We had a lot going on in the SEC right now for sure with this transfer portal. Obviously, a lot going on at Georgia that we've been tuned into. Stetson coming back, is it good? Is it bad? I'm cool either way with it. But yeah, man, we got a lot to talk about tonight, about the portal as well as what's going on with the Dogs.
Yeah, Knowshon, it's a season where everybody is trying to catch. Georgia and Alabama playing the national championship this year. They played in the national championship a few years ago. It seems like for 4 or 5 years, Georgia and Alabama have been the teams that, with that, except for the Joe Burrow phenomenon that happened at LSU. Everybody's been trying to play catch up with Georgia, and that's definitely the case here with some of these teams. LSU, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Florida, Texas A&M in the transfer portal.
Yeah, some big moves. You can see it happening. Man, but I don't know if it's the same thing with you fellas, but for me, man, it's hard to keep up with these guys. Every other week, it seems like every day there's a new person about to leave. There's a new person coming in. So, yeah, definitely excited to talk about the guys coming in, talk about the guys that left. But, yeah, I mean, you got to keep up with the Georgias and Alabamas. Our recruiting class, you would hope and think that they're always going to be pretty decent, right? We're going to get those 4 or 5 stars. And the other teams got to keep up with it. But what's helping them keep up with it is that moolah, baby.
The NIL stuff, which both of you have lamented strongly that it wasn't around when you guys were in, because you could have taken quite the advantage of that.
Yeah, we would have been all right. We've been doing all right.
Well, one team that's doing all right now in the transfer portal, and we had it on our cover. I'll throw the cover back up there. You see LSU making moves, Florida taking actually a corner from Georgia there, and Jalen Kimber. You got Zach Evans, one of the best running backs in the country, that's now on board the Lane train over there. And of course, we'll talk about Stetson Bennett coming back to Georgia here in a second. But guys, LSU, Brian Kelly, he was in a tough spot. Ed O left that place. He's bringing in women into practice, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. You know, I
mean, out there, Sauce. He was ODN.
Come on, this is recent.
Yeah,
just running around Baton Rouge with his shirt off, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So Edo, you know, he captured kind of momentum there and struck fire there in LSU. They win a title, but the lack of structure is kind of what does him in. Now they go the complete 180, bring in Brian Kelly, who's buttoned all the way up, and he's ready to go, you know, fake country accent and all down there on the my family, you know, bringing in there on his introduction on the court. But Brian Kelly is not afraid to go out there and hit that transfer portal, and LSU is kind of racking up TK, Knowshon, y'all go ahead. Whoever wants to go first, just kind of I know y'all did some research today. What do you see about LSU bringing guys in with the portal?
Man, I think you got to talk about the back end of that defense when you talk about what's needed. And losing a cat like Elias Ricks in the transfer portal to Nick Saban in Alabama, that's huge. That's huge. But you get a guy like a Greg Brooks Jr. from Arkansas, a guy that's played some significant snaps, played in the defense that I think was pretty stout, as well as safeties on that back end, Mekhi Williams and Joe Faucher, from another cat from Arkansas.
They're basically it's like NFL now. It's almost like Pittman and Kelly, you know, came up to each other and said, "Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to send you two. You send me two."
Yeah. I didn't understand. I saw that a couple of times actually, where you know a guy is leaving. I think it was LSU if I'm not mistaken, right? And they both like switch paths. They both just switch positions, switch schools, the same position. It's like
LSU Arkansas.
No doubt. It's a crazy time right now in the SEC for sure. We got a comment right here from it. Spormer Ben says, not even an SEC guy, but can't believe the season's over and still need my college football info. Well, we're going to do our best to provide it to you here at Spormer Ben. Hey, if you're not an SEC guy, you may be converted before it's all over with when you listening to the three of us, because we are unashamedly biased towards the SEC because, listen, the SEC makes it that way, right? I mean, the results are there. So the 18 or in the last 16 national championship games, the SEC has had 18 teams in those 16 national championship games. So that's more than once that both of the teams have been SEC teams in the national championship game. There's actually a few times, you're talking about when LSU and Alabama played each other. Now Georgia and Alabama twice that have played one another. So they are the SEC is the preeminent power in college football. And like I said, they're really having to keep up with the Joneses. But going back to LSU real quick, I wanted to talk about two pickups they made. One, Noah Kane. Knowshon, you're a running back. Noah Kane was a running back. He's originally from the Baton Rouge area, goes up to play for James Franklin at Penn State. You were talking about Monty Ball before this, Knowshon. If you're a running back that's being trusted to come into the Big Ten, I know we'd like to give the SEC some love, but the Big Ten is a league that, you know, they're going for the most part, except, you know, Ohio State, they're going to run the football. Yeah. Michigan and Wisconsin, those kind of teams. Penn State's been physical over the years. So getting a back who's been in that kind of system and played for James Franklin, that's a big pickup for Brian Kelly.
Yeah, that's a definitely big pickup there. Like you said, they're used to running the ball over there. You know, Monte, he might be the lead in Russia for sure. Has to be the lead in Russia at Wisconsin. He rushed for 500 times in like one season. You know what I mean? So yeah, of course they're going to run the ball over there. And like you said, they're physical, so that's going to be an easy adjustment to coming over here to the SEC. You know, we're physical and fast. That would probably be the one thing I think about is the speed of the SEC and how he would have to maybe adjust to that. But at the end of the day, you're still running the ball. Run the ball hard downhill. You know, I love that. Hey, put one foot in the ground and get downhill, and I'm fine with you. So he ain't gonna have no problems.
And TK, that's Knowshon talking about the running back position there. One of the biggest things that Brian Kelly may have done, and you and I, we talked about LSU all through the year, is they ended up retaining Keyshawn Boutte. Keyshawn Boutte, everybody expected him to go in the portal. He didn't. He's going to stay there. You watched this LSU offense when Max Johnson, the lefty, was slinging it around for him, who has subsequently transferred to Texas A&M. Like you said, Knowshon, you don't know where all these guys are going. But how big of a deal is that for LSU just keeping Kayshon Boutte at home?
I mean, it's super huge. We talked about it all year long. He's a special type of athlete. He's a guy that has to have the ball. For your team to have success, for that team to have success, he's got to touch the ball several times. And we saw when he was dinged up throughout the year, how that went for him when he wasn't available. So having a guy like him is just huge in the return game as well, if they want to do that. But he is a special caliber of a player.
No doubt. And they, it's even bigger when keeping him around when they lose a young receiver like Trey Palmer, who headed out a little bit more west out to Nebraska to play for Scott Frost out there. The best 3-9 team in history over there. They lost like all 9 games by I think a total of 9 points. I mean, it was unbelievable how close those games were that they were in there. But speaking of some of the movement, right? We've talked about LSU and some of the guys they've got. They also lost some players, like you said, some defensive backs to Arkansas. But let's talk about Arkansas real quick. They're a team that they brought in. They brought in Dwight McGlothern from a DB from LSU into Arkansas. They've also brought in Landon Jackson, a edge player from excuse me. I'm talking backwards here with LSU. They brought in a player from LSU and Landon Jackson, who was a edge player, and he's going to provide that pass rush on the outside. We've talked about, the receiver play with Alabama, having the receivers they've had over the years. And then you have on the other end of the spectrum, Georgia having the great pass rush and the defense they've had this year. It seems like Arkansas is trying to put together a combination of that, bringing in a Landon Jackson as an edge player. They got Jaden Hazelwood that they brought in from Oklahoma. So TK, the pit boss over there, making some moves in the portal.
Yes, sir. I love the pit man. He's a baller, and he's a baller of a coach. His team, like I say it all the time, kind of just carries themselves in the way that he does, and that's just hard nosed. And you said it, bro. You said something. It's a mimic league. This league is a mimic league. You look at Georgia's offense and how we tried to move it around a little bit more, do more explosive things. You got to do that. You have to do that when Alabama's scoring 45 points. So on the other side of that, you have to go get edge rushers that are fast to stop a Bryce Young, because that's what you got to do, bro. It's a copycat league.
I mean, anytime you can bring defensive players in, I'm always for that, baby. I mean, I know I played offense, but I'm a defensive guy at heart. So when I see all the defensive guys, the corners, safeties coming in, linebackers switching here and there, I'm like, hey, baby, bring them on in, because we're going to need that at the end of the day. Guys go down. But, hey, you can always have more on defense for sure.
They've also brought in a linebacker from Alabama and Drew Sanders. So I think that, you're seeing a lot of people want to talk about, Georgia's had 10 guys enter the transfer portal since the national championship game's been over.
Everybody's looking at this. Everybody in the transfer portal.
Alabama's there's literally in terms of I think Power 5 players, like scholarship players, I think there's well into the 1,000. I think it's close to 1,200 players or something in the portal now. So it is a crazy time for sure when you're talking about scholarship players. Now, when you talk about walk-ons and all that kind of stuff, looking for different opportunities, I think it gets up into around the 3,000 mark. I mean, it's a unbelievable amount of players that are looking for a new home. But Arkansas and Sam Pittman are over there doing their thing. Knowshon, one thing I wanted to talk to you about. Sometimes, you've been around in the NFL and you've seen different times where guys, have to step up and become interim head coaches and different things like that. A lot of that kind of stuff comes with it's a position coach. And, Sam Pittman being at that offensive line coach, he was at Georgia and then at Arkansas before, different stops. But he was never a coordinator before, never a head coach, but Arkansas trusted him to kind of take over that job. And I think, he's had that mentality that, like TK said, has rubbed off on other. What is it about some of those offensive line guys and just kind of the vibe they have with the roster and being able to interact with the team?
I mean, at the end of the day, I think you just want to have a leader of men. A guy that can lead the guys in the right direction. That's a leader, and that he shows by example. So I saw that a lot, and I saw that with my position coach with Denver, Eric Studesville. He's my position coach. Josh McDaniels gets fired, let go towards the end of the season. Probably had 4 games left, and then
Tebow got him.
Yeah, I don't know what got him, man. It was a lot of things that was happening with Josh. But yeah, and then Eric Studesville jumped in there, and everyone loved Studesville. Great family guy, great man, a guy that can lead us. So as long as you have a guy like that in your organization, you can't be led wrong. And that's what it sounds like, the same situation here.
Yeah, and by the way, that's no dig at Tim Tebow, because I think Tim Tebow, when you talk about college football players, I think he's the GOAT. I mean, I think he's the best to ever do it, but that was far from it in the NFL, my man. He
made some. Listen, okay, I understand. Yeah, he's a player.
That college tape is filthy.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But when they showed that practice tape over there that they had of him, I think he knocked a water girl out over there on the sideline when he was trying to throw a dig over the middle.
I had to tell him.
That's what messed that boy up.
I had to tell him, but I said, listen, man, I'm right over the ball. You don't have to throw it to me so hard, brother. I'm right here.
My man was using all 450 of that bench press. Bring it down to you. Check down. Take out Knowshon's aorta on one.
Oh, yeah, real quick.
There we go. So now, but we've talked about LSU and we've talked about Arkansas, some of the dynamic there, but also another new head coach in the SEC that's getting things done to the transfer portal, trying to supplement his roster, is Billy Napier at Florida. He was the head coach at UL, which is Louisiana Lafayette, and man, Knowshon and TK, he's bringing some raging Cajuns with him. He was over here gutting his former team's offensive line, bringing best tackle and interior offensive lineman they got with him.
Yeah, he definitely did his thing, which says a lot about who he is as a coach. And I was going to speak on that because he actually recruited me. When he was at Clemson. I would have definitely went there had it not been for some other coaches. Not Dabo. I love Dabo too, but that's a whole nother story. Bottom line is he's a hell of a recruiter. He's a hell of a person. And you can honestly see that just from, he left a place, he brings his best with him.
Well, to that point, not to cut you off, but tell everybody, since you've had that experience with him, what is Billy Napier like as a recruiter? What were those conversations like? And what's his kind of demeanor? What's Florida getting in a head coach and recruiter there?
Yeah, super personable, super approachable. I can remember my mom cooked him spaghetti. Yeah, it's so funny. It's funny that I even remember that. But
we didn't cook Kirby no spaghetti when he came to visit.
He ain't get the spaghetti.
Kirby,
no spaghetti. Yeah.
Kirby's asking Knowshon. Kirby's asking Knowshon, what do you want me to cook for you? I cook for you.
Yeah, I had to cook. I wasn't on that level. I had to cook, man. But no, he was super personable person. Somebody that's hungry to win. You could tell he's hungry to win. He was a tight end coach when I was getting recruited by Clemson, and so you could just tell. You could tell what he wants to do. You saw what he did at UL, and I just think I think the world of him.
Yeah, absolutely. Knowshon, one thing that I think that you can both give, but I'll start with you first, Knowshon, that you can give, a little bit of, I guess, insight to is y'all know how heated this Georgia-Florida rivalry is, right? You know what that's like. You've been in the throes of it. And for Jalen Kimber to say, all right, I'm out at Georgia, I'm going to head down to Gainesville. What do you think about that? Just the mindset, is it just a sign of how this time is so different?
Yeah, listen, I can't believe it. Like, I couldn't do that one. Listen.
I'll say this. If you play in that game, you will never do
that. Yeah, it's one of these things where, listen, when I came to Georgia, I didn't know anything about the rivalries and things like that. I kind of got just thrown into that, right? So, but that game right there is one of those rivals where it's like, you cannot go to that school after, after playing in that game, after going to a rival school, especially Florida. Man, I would have been fine with Tennessee. I would have been fine with a lot of other schools, but you can't do that.
I can't give it to them.
But I get it.
Here's the thing. Georgia is just bringing in such a talented class of defensive backs. Also, of course, of course, Keely Ringo's coming back. But you've got Jaheem Singletary, who's a 5-star #1 corner in the country out of Jacksonville, Florida. Speaking of the Georgia-Florida game, he's from the Jacksonville area. He's coming up to Athens to be a part of that. They've also got Julian Humphrey, who runs a 4.35 laser timed 40 out of the Houston, Texas area that's coming in.
What these kids eating, bro?
I don't know. It's crazy. Whatever. I guess they eat whatever Tebow was eating while he's homeschooled over there getting that 450 bench press. I don't know. They're like, all right, Tebow, it's time to do your math, and then you got to go do some HGH over here. Right after that, there's a little cycle, so we're gonna get it going. But no, that's just the way it is. But I can see the influx of talent there and him being injured and not getting to compete this year. Listen, I can see it if he has opportunity. And, like you said, TK, Billy Napier is a personable guy. So he may have had some kind of a back channel connection there. Who knows?
But that's the thing that when it comes to transfer, just for me personally, I mean, I'm a competitor. I don't care how many 5 stars, 4 stars you bring in. I didn't play. All right, we're going to compete. And we're going to see who's the best player, right? I mean, transferring, going to another school doesn't mean that another guy ain't going to transfer into that school. Now you're in the same position.
And I was going to talk about this too. It's kind of a double-edged sword with that. Everybody want to get mad at these kids for leaving schools and all that. But at the end of the day, like you have to do what's best for you as a person. As tough as that is, like you got to do what's best for you. Like you can't look at these kids especially as a receiver. If we're talking about like a Jermaine Burton, man, I'm not getting. Ultimate goal is NFL, right? If I'm not getting targets that I feel like I need to get me there, then I'm gonna do what's best for me and take my talents to another place to do so. So it's kind of a double-edged sword with this. Like,
Georgia, I just hope they're not leaving because they don't want to compete.
Okay, then there's a difference with that. Big difference, huge difference. Like you're a competitor. He's a competitor. He competed all year. For him, that kid, I think is different. For some kids, I don't know. I mean, times are different.
Yeah, it is a little bit different. Like we said, with the NIL and with all the stuff going on now, you got to look at that too. If you're not on that field, you're not going to be able to market yourself very well either. And also too, you got to look at these college coaches. They're pulling in some huge salaries, and those salaries have to be justified by one thing: W's. They got to go out there and they got to take care of business. So, if they have a hole in their roster, a lot of them may, want to bitch and moan about the transfer portal publicly and things like that. But, behind the scenes, they may be saying, all right, this is pretty good. It's like going grocery shopping. Now, Kirby said a couple of years ago for Georgia, he said, I'm going to treat it like the grocery store. He said, when it comes to it, I'm going to go get the items I need. But he said, you better not always go to the grocery store hoping to just live off everything and hope it has everything you need. Because he said, someday they're going to be out of stock. They're going to be out of stock of the item you need and want. So you got to supplement it with recruiting the right way. And of course, Nick Saban has done that. Kirby Smart has proven he's done that. And then even guys like Lane Kiffin, and that's the next team we're going to talk about here is Ole Miss. When you're talking about Ole Miss, they just got JJ, I'm not going to pronounce his last name correctly. I know this, but JJ Pegues, he's the guy that they used to use at tight end at Auburn when Gus Malzahn was there, big, like 300-pound dude. But now, Brian Harsin came in and said, I'm not as crazy as old Gus was. I'm going to move you to defensive tackle. And he had a great year. Now he's over with Ole Miss, but also they brought in a slew of guys from Power 5, but the biggest thing they brought in is Zach Evans. Zach Evans was a recruitment for the ages, a unbelievable story that I don't think anybody will ever be able to tell it all, because some people get like their legs broken and all this kind of stuff. Like, it's some mafia stuff going on in that recruitment. But I will tell you this, Knowshon, Zach Evans went to TCU. The talent level of the team may have hurt him there, but Zach Evans coming to Ole Miss, I think him and Jamar Gibbs, who's going from Georgia Tech to Alabama, both of those guys have a chance to be the best running back in college football next year.
Yeah, man, I guess this time will tell, right? We're just going to have to see. You know what I mean? I'm like, you know me, I'm not a really big statistics guy. I'll check it. But I want to see these guys on the field and get it going. But they're definitely big pickers for this team. You can't lie about that.
I mean, Zach Evans, TK, when you're talking about, the way that Lane Kiffin's been able to use his running backs, he's a guy who he can catch the ball in the backfield. He's got that slender, but he's kind of long. He's more of a vertical type running back than that, power bowling ball type guy. But deceptively powerful, but also kind of that sleek running back that can get out in space and make changes. And if it's a guy that can get out in space, old Lane's going to use him.
Gonna find a way to give him the ball like he does all of his playmakers. Zach Evans is a Swiss Army knife, bro. He's somebody that could be in the slot. He's somebody that can. He's a matchup nightmare for a backer or anything like that. So, you know me, I love Lane Kiffin, bro. I love his antics. I love his style. He tweeted he was in Athens, Georgia, sometime today. Could JT Daniels be going to Ole Miss?
Who knows? I mean, they're after Jackson Dart right now, who's a talented, was a freshman this past year at USC. But with Jackson Dart being in the portal, that would make me lend to think that Caleb Williams is on his way out to join Lincoln Riley over there from Oklahoma, especially with Mario Williams having gone over there from Oklahoma as well. But if he picks up a guy like Jackson Dart to replace Matt Corral, and then, of course, Zach Evans is there with him, that's another some more dynamic playmakers for Ole Miss and the Lane train there. And then, finally, guys, we've talked about all these teams, but at the end of it, the rich, kind of continue to get richer when it comes to Alabama and Georgia's recruiting classes that they're bringing in. They haven't been super active in the portal yet, but Alabama has brought in Elias Ricks, former 5-star defensive back at LSU. When the Ed O stuff was all going down, he came around. He came in right before the SEC championship game, and so did Jahmyr Gibbs. But Georgia, they've signed what is currently right now, according to Rivals, number 3 ranked recruiting class, and they're returning a bunch of guys. I think that's the biggest thing for Georgia, is that William Poole says he's returning. Christopher Smith says he's returning. Nolan Smith on that defense says he's returning.
That's a big one for sure.
Robert Beal, who led the team in sacks, is returning. And then last but not least, the quarterback that was there to win the national championship with him, Stetson Bennett, is returned. First, you guys touch on those defensive guys returning for Georgia, and then we will lead into the rest of this being the quarterback conversation with Stetson Bennett in Georgia.
Obviously, getting everybody back, or losing as much as we're going to lose defensively, it's good to get those guys back at those key positions. Obviously, you mentioned Nolan Smith. I think that's probably the biggest one that we get back. Bill's huge, obviously, but that motor Nolan plays with is unmatched.
Well, we talked about edge rushers, right? Well, there's your bookends. You got Bill on one end, Nolan Smith on the other. that are coming back, and that, you know, whereas Georgia had on the inside, they had Jordan Davis and Devontae Wyatt come back as for another run this past year, and you saw how impactful that was on the inside. Now Georgia's going to have that on that leadership on the outside and in the secondary, where they were really younger on the outside and secondary this past year. So this defense is going to be kind of flipped, Knowshon, from the strengths of what it was a year ago.
Yeah, for sure. And I love that getting Nolan back. I mean, like how we talked in past cast, Nolan made some big plays in that natty. You know what I mean? Not getting so much time to, and make some big plays that needed to use his awareness and athletic ability to get to some of those plays, and he did it. So, you know, definitely happy to see him back. I'm really wondering, you know what I mean, and I can't wait to see who's going to fill Dean's spot, you know, with the linebacker. That's a big position I think we're going to lose there.
I probably know.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I know who's coming in. You know, it's going to be Jamon Dumas-Johnson out of the Maryland area, the DMD area over there. He was, you know, highly touted player. Florida was after him. Georgia was after him. He comes in, plays this year in spot duty. He's the one that had the pick six at the end of the UAB game. Made a big hit in the Missouri game, number 10. So he'll be probably playing that MAC position for Georgia. But you know, when you talk about other inside linebackers, Xavier Ansari, who came out of IMG Academy, you know, he'll be a redshirt freshman, I guess, or depending on how much special teams you play, a sophomore for Georgia. And then also Smile Munden. Smile Munden is a guy who is the most comparable in skill set, as I would say, not exactly the size, but he's an Adam Anderson type player. I know Adam Anderson's in some legal troubles and things like that right now, but when you talk about a guy who's got length, who can transition, maybe play some inside and outside, that's Georgia's going to be very inexperienced in terms of starting experience at inside linebacker, but they may be even more athletic. I mean, those guys are going to be very, very fast. I think Georgia could look to the transfer portal for a inside linebacker for some experience and stuff like that. Like TK, you and I talked all season about Bumper Poole and how big he was for Arkansas. Well, guess what? Old Bumper Poole's coming back for his 19th year at Arkansas. He's
been at Arkansas longer than I was at Georgia. And that's saying something.
Bumper Poole's coming back. And speaking of another year, Stetson Bennett. Stetson Bennett was there in 2017 when Georgia won in the Rose Bowl, was the actual quarterback this couple weeks ago now, or almost a couple weeks ago when they won the national championship. And the mailman is returning for another trip around the old mail route this time for Georgia. So, you know, it's been a divisive decision, which blows my mind that it would be, because at the very least, I would think that the Georgia fan base, you know, out there, the Twitter coaches, if you will, would be happy that they've got someone that's a leader on the team, that the team gravitated towards, and that when the chips were down, performed and did what he needed to do to help Georgia win the game. Now, I think one thing you got to know about Georgia is that nothing's going to say, okay, here it is on a silver platter. Everybody's got to compete every day. So he's still going to have to compete when he comes in there. But I don't see how, and this is just maybe my tiny brain thinking this, I don't see how returning a national championship winning quarterback is a bad thing. But half the Georgia fan base seems to think so.
Well, I mean, this should give him a lot of confidence, though, right? I mean, going into this year, I mean, I've already been there. I've done that. I accomplished that big stage and got it done, right? So now you should come into this season like, now I'm just going to go out here and ball and really just show them that, hey, they didn't make the wrong decision when they put me in here. It's going to be real interesting to see, though, if he does, you know, start off a little slow or have a couple bad games. Is that the time that they say, you know what, we do pull him here and put someone else in?
Man, if he start off slow, they're going to be on his whole neck. Who's on him? What you mean? They're going to put the whole cowboy boot on there, boy. Mm-hmm. Hey, look here. I agree with you, Blaine. It's tough, and you'd be looking at a head coach sideways or anybody sideways if you're telling them you've got a national championship quarterback that your team loves, your coaches love, and they tell you, I don't want them.
Well, maybe they just start with him now, TK. I mean, ain't nothing to start with him, but I don't say that you don't have to end with him though.
Yeah, and that's my point too. I mean, I think he's earned the right to get those 1 reps. But this is Brent Rollins, who works at Pro Football Focus and also with me over at UGAsports.com. He put up Stetson Bennett's 2 season and the 20 season and 21 season. You can see overall quarterback grade, passer rating, adjusted completion percentage, accuracy in terms of ball placement. I mean, accuracy went up over seven percentage points. That's a big deal. And then the uncatchable rate or the inaccurate went way down. So I think, one thing Stetson is always going to struggle a little bit with when it comes to stop sharing the screen there. When it comes to who he is as a quarterback is most quarterbacks, if not all, struggle when pressure is brought, right? Because there's less time to make decisions, stuff like that. But being at the stature that he is, maybe sometimes that prevents him from seeing certain things. I mean, just being a guy that's 5'11", stuff like that. The height helps out as a quarterback. But I think if he can understand another year in the offense, and especially having if things stay status quo, Todd Monken remains the offensive coordinator at Georgia. And guess what, guys? This is one of the few times in Georgia history where you have a returning starting quarterback and all 3 of the top pass catchers in terms of receptions are returning as well. Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey, and A.D. Mitchell, all 3 returning. Those were the 3 leading receivers in terms of receptions. TK, that alone can give you some answers and help you to say, okay, if they bring pressure here, I know where my hot is. My guys are a year older on the outside. They may know where their side adjustments are, all that kind of stuff.
I mean, you spoke to it, bro. We talk about it all the time. Experience is the best teacher, number one. But that kid, getting him back and everything he's been through, all the rocks has been thrown at him, everything on the field, off the field, blitzes, everything. That's a gem, bro. Having a experience at the quarterback position is a gem. You said it. Blitz pickup, blitz recognition,
changing the run play, Knowshon.
Yeah.
And see, before you said it, I didn't even think about it, but he's gonna be able to do that even better. You threw his stats up there, it made me think this kid got better. So that's what I'm intrigued at. I'm intrigued to see if he can top that. Now it'll be tough to do because everybody's got his tape on him. Everybody knows more tape on him. The more tape you got out there, the more people can break you down. But I know he's hungry. I know that he's I don't think I've ever seen a kid as cool, calm, and collective as he is. I know that he's gonna have a chip on his shoulder, but because of all these people saying, "Oh, not this kid again."
Nah, yeah, I mean, he had a chip on the shoulder last year, right? I mean,
yeah, but now he got another one.
Yeah, now he got 2 of them things. No,
a ring on his finger and 2 chips on his shoulder.
Oh man, that's a Wayne lyric right there. Wayne can take that. Yeah, you would hope and assume that he's going to get better. And that was what I was trying to say as well. That he's going to get better. But like we said earlier, we don't have to stay with him if things start to get rocky. But having Bauer and Mitchell, these guys that got that year underneath their belt, got these years underneath their belt, and played in the big stage should only help Bennett out. Having those guys, and then the young guys are going to step up as well.
That's the thing. People like Brock Bowers and A.D. Mitchell for Georgia and Ladd McConkey. They just went out there and played on the biggest stage that they could possibly play in, and they balled out. I mean,
playing essentially like raw talent. Like essentially.
Whereas Alabama, and now I know A.D. Mitchell and Brock Bowers played a lot more throughout the season, but Alabama had a lot of guys thrust into that position, and the lights were a little bright. TK, you had you had Ajayi Hall drop a ball over there. Now Ajayi Hall is going to be a tremendous player. You had Ja'Cory Brooks stick one hand out where he maybe could have got two hands out there on the fade over the outside shoulder, things like that. So it's going to be interesting to see how these freshmen both were, because Alabama took a lot of freshmen and young players. And Dallas Turner, number 15 on defense for Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
My goodness.
He a dog. They going to put him on the other side of – he a dog.
Y'all can hear me right now?
Yeah.
Okay, my fault. I switched mics up on them. My fault. I couldn't really take my eyes off of 31 Anderson. Honestly, I couldn't. The way that he flies around.
But 15 on the other side was a freshman. Dallas Turner's freshman had 8.5 sacks. He's a freshman All-American. Georgia wanted him, badly. But the problem with Georgia was they got in a little bit late on his recruitment over there. Same thing with Will Anderson. In fact, Georgia was kind of in on both of them. It's amazing how much it overlaps between Georgia and Alabama back and forth on some of these top end recruits. But guys,
they're gonna be tough again.
Yeah,
they didn't lose many, right? On defense.
Well, they've lost some guys. I mean, to the league and stuff like that they're going to go pro. But also, Jameson Williams gone. Their top receiver John Mechie gone. Yeah. So it's really going to be incumbent on Alabama to get it right out wide with some of those young talented players, which are immensely talented. Ajayi Hall, Ajayi Hall and Ja'Cory Brooks, those types of guys. But guess who else just entered the transfer portal at the University of Georgia? It is Jermaine Burton.
Yeah,
and you could end up seeing Jermaine Burton in Tuscaloosa. I mean,
I heard a little bit, but I can see that.
NASA man may end up over there in Tuscaloosa playing for Nick Saban. And when this whole transfer portal thing got going, Nick Saban tried to warn everybody before it got started. He wanted to say, okay, if you want to do this, if this is how we want to go down, if you want to do this, this is how it's going to go down. The rich are going to get richer because they're going to go cherry pluck a Henry To'oTo'o from Tennessee to play linebacker for him, a Jameson Williams from Ohio State to come play wide receiver for him. And, Georgia did the same thing. Okay, let me go take a two-time All-American in De'Aaron Kendrick and put him at corner in that defense over there and have him, ball out. And you see where it leads. So Lane Kiffin, Sam Pittman, Brian Kelly, all of these teams in the SEC, they're seeing that success. They're also seeing the success of people like Mel Tucker at Michigan State, who literally just renovated his entire roster. I think had 42 transfer portal acquisitions in his first two seasons there at Michigan State. And what happens? Old Mel goes and wins about 10 games and gets 95 mil thrown at him over there, So that's how it works. Utilizing the transfer portal today. But before we get out of here, we're about to hit the end of our time here. Just wanted to kind of get any thoughts from you guys in terms of what are you looking forward to see out of any certain team in the portal? What do you think is going to be interesting going forward as we head around, start kicking off the off season and heading into spring ball and all that kind of stuff?
Two things for me. These new coaches, I really want to see how they recruit. Obviously, Coach Nate, I want to see how he recruits at UF. And then Brian Kelly, I
can't wait to see that.
Yeah, I just want to see how he does down there recruiting, just in the atmosphere. It's different. I think it's different. I really do. And I'm intrigued to see how he does with it.
Yeah. For me, it's just seeing the guys, seeing who we're going to get in, to fill some of these positions. And, we talked about Zach over at Ole Miss a little bit there. And, more that we talked about it. And I was like, you know what? I am excited to really see that back. Like we talked about earlier, real versatile back, a little power, a little speed. So to see what he can do out there, I know it's a little bit later on in the season, but I want to see what he does. But Same thing with you, TK. These coaches, I want to see what these coaches can do and bring into their team and their establishment.
Absolutely. Well, we're excited here as the off season keeps rolling on, but nothing ever really stops. There's big recruiting weekend going on this weekend. You got Texas A&M with their $30 million NIL class. It's they're hosting some more guys this weekend. You've got Georgia bringing in some guys for official visits. EJ Lightsley, who's a linebacker out of Fitzgerald down in South Georgia. So there's lots of things going on in recruiting. Make sure you hit subscribe. Follow us on YouTube follow us, on Twitter using @SEC2_none, second to none. So join us on there. Like I said, throw us a like in here, and we really appreciate you guys joining us. We're all about SEC football, the transfer portal, everything that's going on, and we'll be covering it all year. So for Tavarres King and Knowshon Moreno, I am Blaine Gilmer, and we will catch you guys next time on the Second to None podcast.
Bring on the G-Day game. Let's go.